And you guys are really lucky to be in this room with Juan putting this on this weekend because, you know, a lot of people aren't willing to share or don't share as openly. But I think you were right. You said something about successful people do typically share with you and are willing to share. And I love it. Just to give you guys a little bit about my background, I started in 1986, bought my first property. I moved to Michigan from Colorado. And before I moved, my mother had gone to a real estate investing seminar and she bought a real estate investing course. And when she bought that course, she came home and she found there was just this one big problem at home. My dad. He was chicken. He was like, no, we're not doing real estate. So here I was getting ready to go to Michigan. I had this job right after college. And she said, Wendy, I want you to take this course to Michigan. And please, for me, do something with it. Now, she never knew until like many years later that that really changed my life, right? Because that course, I mean, I literally was listening to it on the way to Michigan saying, I don't want to work. You know, I just got this job right after college, right? I'm like, I don't want to work. I want to be an investor. Well, anyways, I did end up working corporate America for 10 years, but the last 4 or 5 years of it were 3 10-hour days so that I could really leverage and launch my real estate business. So when I moved to Michigan, the company I worked for had moved about 15,000 people into Michigan, like within a month. And there was nowhere to live, no apartments anywhere. Everything had a 6-month waiting list. And this was 1985. And I was put into a motel, just like everybody else, except that my friends got the Hilton and I got the Red Roof Inn. If you haven't seen one of those, they're not very nice. Anyway, I stayed in the Red Roof Inn, and I remember something that real estate course my mom taught me, and it was to get involved in being a real estate investor and to start getting educated on that and to join a group. So I did that, and here I am 40 years later. It completely changed my life. And I'm going to share some things that Juan asked me to bring to you guys that are kind of different than maybe the traditional way of investing, right? I mean, everyone pretty much thinks like, hey, I know what I got to do. I just go to the bank, I get a mortgage, I put my money out of my pocket down, and I now have a rental property or a flip or whatever. Well, I'm going to teach you some things that are not that strategy at all. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Like, how do you buy properties without using any money or any credit or not having any negative cash flow? Those exist as well. Those are on top of what Juan is also sharing with you guys, right? And he had so many good points about getting started and taking a risk and jumping into it. You know, because real estate really did change my life, even though, you know, I worked a lot of hours still being a real estate investor. I just got paid a lot more money than my friends, you know, and it was just a lot more valuable per hour. And so that's kind of how I started looking at the business and how to build wealth is what's the best use of my time? And that's probably partly why I stopped doing property management as well. Because I realized like if I was doing my property management, I was doing something that was $20 an hour job at that point when I was younger. And I should be looking for a property that later ends up being, you know, a couple $1,000s an hour type of job. Big difference, right? But you weigh that out over time and you learn how to do it. And you have a team, and I had a team as well that really helped me do that. Also, I want to introduce Annalise, who's with me today. Annalise is 15. She's going to be a real estate rock star, maybe. I don't really know. But she is my son-in-law's sister, so family. And she's here visiting for the week with her family, visiting my son-in-law and my daughter and their kids. And so they're all kind of hanging out together. And I was like, hey, want to go with me for an hour, you know, to hear me talk about real estate? And she was like, okay. I'm like, I had to bribe her with shopping and stuff like that too, okay? You know, but anyway, so just so you guys know a little bit about my background, with 40 years of background, I've bought and sold. I have now I usually say about 750 units, but I actually just ended up with 157 units in Indiana. So I guess that makes it over 900 now. But I've done every kind of real estate investing, mostly creative financing. That's my expertise. If anyone calls me for like any advice on anything that requires something different, that's me, okay? I've also done traditional investing. I've done multifamily, lease options, subject tos, fix and flip, buy and hold, some commercial, you name it, I've done it. But really my expertise is what I'm going to share with you today, right? The thing that is what kind of was the catalyst to get me started, because when I started, I was young and broke. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money to buy my own first house. But my first house, I ended up buying in 1985 with a credit card. It was my down payment. I took the cash advance. That was my down payment. That was back before mortgage companies didn't allow that. They used to allow you to do that. And so that money was able to be used as my down payment. And back then our interest rates were over 10%. So, and it was a great deal. I got my first 3-bedroom home because I couldn't get an apartment. Remember, I was in the hotel, and I got this 3-bedroom house, and my PITI in 1985 was $438 a month. And I rented 2 bedrooms in my house to 2 ladies in the hotel for $250 each. Got the math? Okay, I had $62 a month cash flow, which paid my credit card payment, and I was living free. So that was like my first deal. And so I started thinking, well, this is easy, you know, why wouldn't I do this again and start renting them out? And so that's what I did. I started buying houses, but again, I didn't have any money. And so you look at kind of like where you start and where you end up. I had to leverage 100% at the time because I had no money. I started in debt. Okay. When I first got to Michigan, I was $20,000 in debt from student loans, and I had a car loan, and I didn't have any savings. So it's a very different thing now. Now I'm debt free. I don't like debt anymore at all. And but it's changed over time, right? Because when you're getting your business going, you are leverage. But at some point it's like pay down, pay off. Because you are either working for money or money is working for you. Now, it takes a while to get money working for you. But when I started, I certainly worked for money. And now, 100% I can tell you, money works for me. So now what kicks off from all these things that, like Juan was talking about over time, you're reinvesting, you're pouring into it, you're paying off, you're paying down. Next thing you know, you're like, you know you have assets. You know what your net worth is because I was tracking it all along. But at the time when you finally end up going, okay, it's time to like slow it down and play pickleball. And then you're like, wow, this is just, I mean, incredible. And I've been so blessed, but I really thank God for that because I really feel like He blessed me with the opportunities and the knowledge and that course my mom gave me. And you guys are having the same kind of experience here to learn about this incredible opportunity to be whatever it is you want to be. I mean, for me, I loved real estate. I love every aspect of it. My favorite deal I ever did, ever in 40 years, I just closed on. And I'll tell you about that at the end if we have time, okay? I also will stay after for questions. I'll give you guys my contact information if you have questions. I don't sell real estate in Arizona anymore. I don't even have a license anymore in Arizona, just in Michigan. But I will help you with creative ideas or thoughts. And same with Juan. He knows he can call me anytime if he's got stuff that comes up that's very unusual or unique to the real estate world. Those are the kind of things I absolutely love, okay? So if we could, I have a bunch to, I really have about 4 days worth to cover with you. And I think he told me 60 minutes, okay?
You can go over them.
So am I, like if I go over a little, but I'm letting you know, I mean, seriously, I have to give you the very high level, which means I don't have a lot of time for a lot of in-depth questions until maybe after, and then we'll see how much time is left, if that's cool with you guys. Otherwise, you guys can always call me if you don't mind, because I love to help people. Like Juan said, it's just who I am. Now I do, I used to consult people for fees, and now I don't. I don't want to charge anyone anything. I just like to help people for free. So it's really kind of fun. So anyway, so my why is, my family. These are, I got married when I was young, and when I was just moved to Michigan, I got married and I had twins, and unfortunately got divorced shortly thereafter, and I was a single mom. And so that was kind of a tough time in my life. But then I met Michael, and he has 3 kids, and we've been together for over 25 years now. So it's been an amazing family together, and not one of my kids likes real estate. Can you believe it? I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? That's fine. I will try to spend every dime before I die, okay? Because you aren't willing to work for it. No, I'm kidding. They're all good kids, and they do a lot, but they just don't have a passion for being an entrepreneur like I did. And I just can't imagine any other life personally. I just absolutely love it. So anyway, here's what you're going to learn today. Okay, we're going to talk about what a lease option is, what a subject to is. So a few other creative strategies we can talk about if you want. And then I'll leave some little time for Q&A, okay? So if you guys want to ask me any questions about that. So let me ask you guys a question first. Let's say, what's your average price point now? 400, 450? Say 4, let's just say 400. So I have a house, it's worth 400, okay? How many of you want to give me 400 grand for that house? Nobody, okay? What if I asked you this? What if I said, I've got a house that's worth 400,000, but you don't have to give me the 400 grand for 10 years. 0 down, payments of $2,000 a month. Anyone interested in that house now? Who's interested in that house? A few of you, okay. Okay, let's make it better then. What if all $2,000 a month that I'm paying toward rent from the owner goes towards that 400 grand now also? Now how many of you are interested? If your hand is not up, please make sure the person next to you is awake. Because of course we would, right? Why would we do that but we wouldn't pay 400? What is the reason? What's the difference? I mean, I know it's probably obvious, but I just want to make sure. Let's talk about this. Because this is the thing that makes people wealthy. It's thinking creatively. It's not just buying, buying, buying. Anyone? What was the difference? Why did you all of a sudden say yes, but you said no, but before?
The upfront money?
The upfront money, that's one of them, yes. So if you can buy houses without using any money, is that more appealing to you? Yeah, because then, and no mortgage, how many houses can you buy with 0 down and no mortgage?
Sky's the limit.
As many as you can find, right? So there's no limit, right? It doesn't limit us. See, when I go to get a mortgage, I have to put 10 or 20% down, plus closing costs and fees, and any rehab work that's going to be needed in between, right? And then pay monthly a little bit negative to, accommodate that. That might be a good thing if the price is good, by the way. I still would recommend you don't pay top dollar. You want a deal, right? That's how we make money. I don't buy on future appreciation. That's a bonus, which does almost always happen. But I buy on the deal today. Like, what is that deal worth to me today? Because I don't want to step into something that's going to be upside down just because someone gave me these terms. So that's what I'm looking for from you guys, terms, right? So nothing down, 10 years to pay it, a low monthly payment, all of it got applied. Got it, right? Those are some different things, right? That make that deal more valuable, is that right?
Yep.
Right? So normally, if if you buy a $400,000 home, how much is the payment going to be? $2,000?
More.
Yeah. How much more?
1,000 more.
I didn't actually pull it up, so I'm kind of hoping someone knows.
1,000 more.
Probably like $3,000 at least, right? 3,200 maybe, 3,100. Okay. And what is it going to rent for? 2,700? Maybe less. 2,500? Okay. I don't like that. I don't like paying $700 a month or $500 a month, right? To keep something that also I'm going to pay repairs on. So that kind of, you've got to think about that. Make sure that you're getting that equity when you're buying it, if you're going to be paying into it, right? Also, if you can negotiate something like this with a $2,000 payment, now you're a positive 500. I like that a lot. I like those deals a lot. I've always made more money on houses I didn't own than the houses I owned.
Love it.
You got that?
Yep.
That's a weird, different concept, okay? Or the ones I didn't get mortgages on, I should say, okay? Now, So that's like, what would you buy, right? So let's look at the terms. We talked about these. The price the price can actually be full price or full retail if you get the right terms. But here's all the terms that are possible, right? The other thing is that when you're looking at a deal, I don't look at just price. So I don't just say, oh, it's worth 300. I'm gonna pay 250 only, right? I'm not looking at just price, because if the seller can do some of these other things, I might pay 300. But I'm not going to pay 300 and not get these things. Does that make sense? Like, you got to be able to negotiate so that it works for you. So I get calls all the time. People go, I've got this lease option, and guess what? They're willing to do it. And I said, okay, tell me the details. And they tell me the details. I'm like, that's a crappy deal. Why do you want that? You know, you want to have something that works good for you, so that it's building equity for you, or that you walk in with equity, right? So if it's worth 300 today and I can lock it up on this kind of deal for 250 or 275, now I've automatically got some equity, right? That's going to be good for me. All right. So this is what lease options are. So what is a lease option? Has anyone ever done one, by the way? Oh, you have? Okay.
Well, I have it, I refinanced a bunch of them.
You refinanced a bunch of them. You what?
I'm a loan officer.
Oh, you refinance other people that bought on options? Okay, that's a great question then. It's kind of a little deeper than we're going to do today, but you can still refi them?
Yeah,
Okay, how do they, without anything, they have to have it recorded or what?
yeah, they have to have it recorded. You can do them as a purchase as well.
Yeah,
So you either purchase or a refi.
Yeah.
One.
okay.
But-
Oh, if the purchase, yeah.
Yeah, I refinance a lot of people.
Okay, very cool. We used to be able to do it very easy.
Common outside of Arizona,
Yeah,
like in other places in the country, very common.
yeah,
Here, not as common, but they still exist here.
right, very cool, very cool. Okay, so what is a lease option? Well, a lease option is, well, first let's talk about what an option is. An option gives you a privilege or the right to exercise a privilege. In this case, it would be the right to purchase a piece of real estate, right? That's what a lease option is, okay? Notice the thing, it's the privilege, it's the right, it's the opportunity. There's one thing it's not, and that's an obligation. It's not an obligation. You don't have to buy it. This is the beauty of a lease option. It's your choice if you want it or not, okay? Not the seller's choice at this point, okay? It's what we call control without ownership in real estate. And all money in real estate is made by controlling real estate, 100%. You have to control it to make the profit. You don't have to own it to control it, but you have to control it to make the profit. Usually we just think we have to own it, right? Because that's like our mentality is, I've got to own it. I've got to have the deed in my name. You don't actually have to. And a lease option is one way that you're not going to have the deed in your name. Okay, so when you look at a lead, you get a lead that comes your way and you think, again, you know, like it's 400,000, they want 400,000. No, no deal, right? It's too tight, right? I always say, look at the lead a little bit differently. When we look at a lead a little bit differently, and you have to look at those other terms, can you do the 400,000 a different way? When you look at that, it may not be just a lead, it could be actually a deal. But if you don't look at it differently, it's always just going to be a lead to you. That makes sense. Okay, so why do you need lease options? This is why people need them. If you think your market might decline, does anyone think our market's going to decline?
No, not right now.
Anyone? If one thinks it's going up, anyone think it's going to stay the same? Anyone not going to answer me no matter what I ask you? You're like, oh, I don't know, is the wrong answer? There's no wrong answer. And this is why I love options. I'm going to show you that, okay? But let's look at that. So if you can't qualify for a mortgage, or you don't have good credit, or you don't have enough for the down payment, or you want to build your portfolio and lenders won't lend to you if you have a certain number of loans anymore. Of course, we've got some different products out there now that do allow for more. Like do you have DSCR, right? That's nationwide, yeah. And if you want to be safe, anyone want to be safe with their investment, or just me? Right, so options are cool for that. So let's look at this why. Here's a lease option, right? If the market goes up and you have lease optioned a property from an owner, are you in a good position? Yeah, yeah, because you have now equity and you can exercise if you want. You have a choice to exercise. It's 400 now, you option it, 3-4 years down the road, it's maybe 450. Now you have equity, you have the right to exercise that option. So you're in a great position. Let's just say that the market goes down, it tanks, and you've optioned a property from the seller. Are you in a good position or a bad position?
Beautiful position,
You're in a great position. Why?
because you don't have the obligation.
You don't have to buy, right? That's why I love options. So this is kind of how I started in real estate, was all lease options, because you're in a good position whether it goes up or whether it goes down. Now let's look at this case. What if it doesn't do either one and it stays the same? Are we in a good position or a bad position? Depends on how you structured it. So the example that I gave you where the $2,000 a month goes toward the purchase price, even if the property never went up in value, you're in a great position, right? If you structure your terms really well, no matter what happens, you're in a good position on a lease option. No matter, and I love that about lease options. So that's kind of like the benefit of them, okay? Of all the lease option stuff. Okay, so there's two strategies for lease options. One's called a sandwich lease option. And this is the one that I did the most with. And I did the most with real estate agents with this one, okay? And this one was, it's a sandwich. So I bought a property from an owner on a lease option. So we have a deal. Then I find a tenant buyer who wants to buy it on an option from me, and that's a lease option. Same property, different contracts, pro buyer, pro seller contracts, and I'm in the middle. Where's the meat in the sandwich? In the middle, right? Where's the cheese, the pickles? And if you do different terms, it's like that makes that sandwich really juicy and good. And that's the best way to describe those, is a sandwich lease option. And that's like putting yourself between two. Now, you could just buy this on an option and hold it for long term and just rent it. Let it build up. Or you could sell it on an option. And there's benefits for both, and there's different ways to do a little bit of that strategy, but it gives you, I'm just trying to give you guys ideas to think outside the box. Okay? So sandwich lease options, so they're only good if the seller has equity in the property. Because without equity, they can't give you equity. Does that make sense? Like, so if the house is worth 400 and they owe 200, they have equity. Now I know that I can start to work on my terms to get some of that 200,000 over time. Whether it be my rental payments go toward the purchase price or something gets applied, right? That makes that what I owe them go down. Okay? They've got to have some equity. Sandwich lease options are your bigger money lease option strategies, but there's another one called a cooperative option, and the seller doesn't have to have any equity. And this is like a wholesale deal, guys. So I find a seller, they owe 400, it's only worth 400, but they'll take 2,500 and someone else is willing to pay 2,500, and I take an assignment fee. Or are most of you realtors too? How many realtors? Raise your hand if you're licensed. Raise your hand if you're not licensed. Okay, so a little bit of both. Either way. So if you're not licensed, I take a fee for it. I just wholesale it and say, I usually take the option fee down from the tenant buyer, which is typically 3 to 5%. So like a commission in a way. And then same thing, if I'm licensed, I'll typically just make it a commission. Understand? So instead of, I just put the seller and the buyer together and I take my fee from the tenant buyer. When they put the money down, then I get paid and I'm done and I'm out. Okay? But there's multiple ways to do that. But that's your quick money strategy. You're in, you're out. But hey, it's not a bad thing, because think about it. If I put a $400,000 home on the market and it's only worth 400 and they owe 400, they can't pay me to get rid of it. Do you got that? So what I would have to sell the tenant buyer for, instead of 400, I would sell it to him for like 415 and then take the 15 grand or whatever is commission, if you're a licensed agent, or an assignment fee if you're not, and make that they owe the seller 400 later. And hopefully you have a good lender who can make that 15 grand count. But you have to talk to him to make sure you know how to structure that so that it works that way, so that they can use that money. All right. So sandwich lease options are two contracts on the same house. You're in the middle. You're the buyer in one, the seller in the other. I use pro-tenant, or pro-buyer and pro-seller contracts. And then cooperative lease options, it's just a contract with a seller to buy their home for a set price and terms and an assignment to the same contract to a tenant buyer. You keep the option fee from the buyer, typically is the way that I structure those, okay? It's really a wholesale deal. Okay, so here's the basic parts of a lease option. There's three parts of a lease option. There's a purchase agreement or sales contract, there's an option agreement, okay, and there's a rental agreement. I didn't say them in the right order there, but you got the idea, right? So you have to have all three. I have three of them. Now, could you put them all in one? Yes, they can all be one contract, especially when you're buying. I like them separate because I don't want any confusion. And especially when I'm selling on a lease option, I want no confusion. If my tenant doesn't pay me rent, I use the rental agreement to evict them. If it's all convoluted with the sales contract, a lot of judges don't understand that, and they might think it's seller financing and you have to go through foreclosure. So I always have kept them separate.
That's a really good point.
And for 40 years, let me tell you, that's worked, okay? And I have students all over the country and all over the UK that's how they do it, because you need to keep it very separate, okay? And there's two sets for buying and one set for selling and one set for cooperative. Okay, let's talk about subject twos. Does anyone know what a subject two is?
We've been staying away from them, but.
Oh, wow. Well, as an agent, you need to stay away from them. You wouldn't want your client to sell on a subject to, okay? But as an investor, so when you're out looking at these deals, or if you have a client who would be very solid for a seller and you're sure of that and you're really confident in that, or me, I could be your client. You know that I would pay, you know, or you would feel comfortable that then you can do those kind of deals and do it as an agent. But what is the subject to? Does anyone know? Because I think this is the biggest opportunity right now. Personally, I'd be like digging for these. Okay, so does anyone know what it is? Okay, I'll tell you what it is. Okay, a subject to is when I get a seller to sell me their property, they give me the deed, subject to the underlying mortgage. So they owe $350,000 on that $400,000 home, and they've got an interest rate of 2.5%, and they're willing to walk. Or I give them 20 grand to walk. Now, I own the house, it's in my name, but the mortgage is still in their name, and it's a lien against the property. So I get title insurance subject to that mortgage. Mortgage lenders don't really like this, but it's, I mean, it's not illegal. It's just, there is a due on sale clause in the mortgage, and that's why, that's the first thing everyone says, there's a due on sale clause. That's the first, issue I get brought up. First question, what about that? Okay, yeah, it could happen 1 out of 1,000, 2,000 times. It does happen sometimes to people. But there are ways that you can minimize that significantly. And I've never had one called due. Okay, but I follow certain ways I do things, and it's very clean the way that I do them. Okay, and if we have a little bit of time after, I'll kind of give you some of the steps on that. But it has to do with the insurance. It has to do with the way that you title it, the way that you notify the mortgage company, because you can never lie to the mortgage company, right? You can never say or try to hide it from the mortgage company. So I'm never going to hide it from the mortgage company. But I'm never going to tell them, I'm going to tell them the truth, but not the whole truth. Got it? Because you never want to commit mortgage fraud. So that's a felony. That's
Is
bad.
it like a rap, similar to a rap? No.
Nope. You could do a wrap, but nope.
Okay,
Nope. It is strictly, I'm paying their mortgage payment. But it is like similar, like you can use this as a wrap later. I'll show you one example. Yeah.
Lower interest rate also transfer over?
What's that?
And will interest rate, if it's a low interest rate, would that also transfer over when you're taking over the mortgage payment?
No, that's why I do it.
Just with the mortgage company?
Oh, I don't talk to the mortgage company. I just make the payment.
So
Yeah, like if I had a mortgage, I don't, but if I did have a mortgage on my house, could you pay it for me? You sure? Are they going to call my note due if you decide to make my mortgage payment? I'm asking, do you know? Could I make your mortgage payment? Anyone in here?
Yeah,
Could your dog make it if your dog had an
as
account?
long as they get the money, I don't think they question it.
They don't question it.
Just do a servicing company.
Okay, there's other reasons that cause it to be like noticed, okay? And that's usually with insurance, okay? I can help you with that part. But it's, no, I'm not saying, hey, lender, can I have permission to take over this mortgage? You know what they're gonna say? No, of course not. They're not gonna give you permission. You just do it. You just do it, okay? And it is one of the very best strategies. Very good. It's a very good strategy. And I'm going to show you guys why it's so powerful. And this is going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to blow your mind. So if you have not had enough coffee and you need to stand up and stretch yourselves out to get your brain power working in just a minute, I got to show you something that it blew my mind. Now, I've done this for 40 years. I wrote my first book on lease options and subject tos in 2005. And I just discovered this thing I'm going to show you 3 years ago when I updated my book. I mean, we updated it to 2023 or whatever it was. And I'm like trying to do all this stuff and I'm looking and I'm like, that must be a mistake. And I'm like, and so I call hey, can you tell me if you could look this certain thing up? And I'll show you guys in a minute. And I thought it was a mistake. And there's something that's really powerful. I don't think I'm sure 99.99999% of agents would never, ever know that this exists. And I bet most lenders don't know this. Maybe you might, but it's very, very rare. And it's kind of like, you'll see in just a minute. So what were you going to ask?
I just wanted to see if putting it with the servicing company would trigger that.
No,
Oh, no.
it shouldn't. But you don't need to. Why pay? I don't use servicing companies. And you know why? Because someone has to pay for that. And either the seller's paying for it or I am. And if the seller's paying for it, then they might want a little bit more to accommodate that or take care of that. I don't use a third party. The payments come right out of my accounts.
So you have these contracts?
I do, but yeah. Okay. Okay. And I have a book on this that you should, if you like this topic, you can buy it on Amazon. I don't have them here. I can't even sell them to you. I'm not trying to sell them to you. I don't care what you do. If you buy them, I make $1. I don't know. Something like that. I'll show you a picture.
Okay,
If you look at Wendy Patton, look up Wendy Patton, you'll see my book, Lease Options and Subject Tos.
all right, let's do it.
But it's make sure it's the 2023 version, okay? So here we go. Here's how these work. I'm gonna show you guys a real example. This is one in a city called Auburn Hills in Michigan. I'm just gonna show you some real numbers. This deal came to me from a wholesaler. Wholesaler brought me this deal. He went through the numbers with me and I said, there's not enough meat on the bone for me. I don't see the deal here. And the seller only needed 20 grand to walk. And he wanted 12 for the wholesale fee. And I said, so how much do they owe on it? And I think it's 185 on here. But they had like 3% interest rate. And so I said, well, Mike, would they leave the mortgage in place? I mean, what's their issue? And he said they were behind a month or two on payments. But the lady made a lot of money. So that always baffles me. How do you make 150 grand a year and you can't make a $1,500 payment? That just bothers me. I don't know why, but whatever. She just didn't understand money and would just pay it whenever she wanted, you know? She's like, I got the money. I'm like, well, you have to pay on time, you know? Well, anyway, so I knew they couldn't get a mortgage in the near future. And so I asked them if they would leave the mortgage in place and do a subject to. And they said, absolutely. They didn't care. So here's how it worked. So example, this is my cash out of pocket. I gave 20 grand to the seller, 12 grand to the wholesaler, and I put 15 grand more into the rehab. It needed some cleanup. Some hardwood floors need to be refinished and just some other paint and, you know, like little cleanup stuff when they moved out. So I had about $47,000 out of my pocket, okay? And the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance was $1,250, 3% rate, okay? Balance on the mortgage, $185,000.
Wow.
ARV, 280, okay? So I could sell it for 280, right? After I put that money in it. Here's what, so if I wanted to do a rental, $1,250 a month, PITI, the rental rates were about $1,800 to $2,000. So the cash flow would be about $550 to $750. Now for me, if I was teaching for 3 days, I would be using this little flip chart and show you when you get $550 a month and you put in $47,000, does anyone know what the rate of return on that is? Or can you figure that out quickly? Can I do this real quick and show you? So just show, okay, I mean, someone might have to use their calculator for this, but let's say I net 550. Okay, times 12 is how much? 6,600, right? We need new pens. Okay, hold on. Let me do this. Is everyone with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how much I could net in the first year. Okay, got it? And I put $47,000 into this. Okay, what's the rate of return on that? 14%. About 14%. Is that good?
That's really good.
Okay, now, this does not include appreciation. This does not include any of the mortgage that's going toward the principal. That would be added on top, right? So it's a pretty good rate of return. But what did I tell you earlier about tenants? I don't like them that much. So, so I was like, I don't want any more rentals. I want to live in Arizona in the winter and Michigan in the summer. I just didn't want a lot of rentals. And one day my husband said to me, honey, like you have so many rentals, like I don't want them. If you get hit by a bus tomorrow, which is possible, you know, he said, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, like I don't want those rentals. Can we please start liquidating? So we did really liquidate most of our rentals, not all of them, but most of them. So I knew, I was like, do I really want to add another rental property? Probably not. But for you guys, this will be good. But not everybody has 47 grand to put down. That's a lot, okay? So, actually this is less taxes, insurance, vacancy, repair, you know what I mean? So you got to look at that. So it's not really 14, it's less than that. Okay, so now let's say if I wanted to do a wrap mortgage. So now I have this property, I own it for 3%, okay? And does everyone know what a wrap is? So a wrap is when I sell it to you for more than 3% interest and a higher price on the mortgage. So I'll show you how that works. This is what we call a wrap. You're wrapping the mortgage at 3 and you're putting something bigger around it. That's why we call it a wrap. So it's $1,250 a month. And I could sell it for 7.5% to a buyer at $280, and the PIT would be $1,958. Okay, now I have no tenants, no toilets, no vacancy, right? And that's $708 a month cash flow. So this is what I was actually trying to do on this house. So I marketed it for this, but at the time, this was like 2 years ago, that no one wanted it for that. No one wanted the seller financing, which was really weird because it was just above the rate, because 2 years ago, it was about 7, somewhere in that range, wasn't it? Like real close. So this wasn't that far off for someone. But anyway, so I didn't end up selling it that way. I ended up, I sold it for $280.
Nice.
Why did I sell for $280? Well, it was worth that for one, but but I sold it for $280 because I didn't want another rental, and no one jumped on the other. So you have multiple exit. I could have done multiple exit strategies, right? I can sell it, I can wrap it, I can rent it, I can lease option it. I could have done any of those kind of things with that deal, and still made some good money. Okay, and if you don't have the $47,000, what would you do?
Borrow it.
Borrow it. Partner with someone.
So you made like 50 grand?
Yeah, I think it was about 50. 185 plus 47, less whatever the closing costs and fees were, 280, something good. It wasn't a bad thing. I'll do those all day long. I mean, I don't do a ton of real estate deals anymore, but when they come to me like that, no brainer. Like, how many of you would do them like that? Would you do it? Who would do this deal? Yeah, this is like, you know, pretty basic deal. Okay, then the light bulb hit me. This is one of those moments. I'm writing my book, rewriting it, and I start looking through my amortization schedules for subject twos. And I thought there was a problem in the calculation of the amortization schedule because something didn't make sense to me. And this is what it was. Okay. I looked at this. I pick a house. Okay. This is how interest rates work. Okay. And then how do 10 and 15 years affect an amortization schedule? Okay. So you're going to see. Stand up for a minute, stretch, get your brains working because you're going to have to think about this. This is like, okay, this is the deepest stuff I cover, and I'm telling you, it's kind of crazy. Okay, stretch. Okay, so back down. Okay, ready? So every one of these amortization schedules I'm showing you are the exact same numbers, the exact same years, 275 for the mortgage, 30 years, those are all exactly the same. The only thing I'm changing is the interest rate. Okay? This is why interest rates are so important. Okay? So here we are, 4.5%. First payment, $1,393. Principal is $362. $362 of that goes towards your purchase price. Pretty good, right? That's like cash flow going right into the bank, right against that balance. So your interest is $1,031. Everyone with me? Remember this number. Got it? And I'm going to show you a chart at the end to remember those, okay? Now here we are 10 years later. Now $565 goes towards it. And only $828 is interest. Ready? Now it's 15 years later, and now we're over 50% of the payment goes toward the principal. Okay? Everyone with me on that? Kind of remember those numbers, and then I'm going to show you a chart later. Now, we are going to look at this same one with 6.5% interest rate. And how much do you think goes towards principal? If it's a 30-year loan, same amortization amount, I always thought it would be the exact same amount of principal, and that only the interest would be more. But that is not true. Because your first month, only $248 goes toward principal. Because there's something with, I don't understand it. I'm not a mathematician, maybe you know, I don't know. It's some kind of weird algorithm for amortization schedules that are like inverse weird in the beginning. I don't know. That's the only way I can explain it to you, okay? So don't ask me why. Do this research yourself. It's crazy. So $248. So less goes toward principal in the very early phases of a higher interest rate loan. I don't know if you remember when people would always say, well, you know, all your interest is front loaded. Well, that's true. When interest rates were like 8, 9, 10, 11%, very little went toward it. And it must have been all in the back end. Then all of a sudden interest rates got to 2.5% and things changed. So watch, that's day one. That's 10 years. Oops, that's the wrong way. Did I just go by? Oh, hold on. What did I miss? Hold on. Okay, wait, 17. Wait, we're there. Okay, wait, that's right. Okay, sorry, 248, 470, and 650. It's not even 50% after 15 years. Is everyone with me on that? Mm-hmm. At 6.5, and that's where we are basically, right in that range.
Right.
We're not far off of that. But on a 4.5%, it's over 50% at 15 years of a much smaller payment. So a bigger amount is going toward it. Now look at this. Now, here we go. Now let's look at 2.5%. How much do you think is going toward principal on that payment of $1,086?
Well,
Take a guess.
500?
About half.
Wow.
$513 from day one. So if you have a lower interest rate, not only is your payment a lot lower, but much more of it is going toward principal from day one.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, something's wrong. Like I mean, no, it has to all be the same because it's 30 years, it's 275,000. The principal should always be the same, just the interest should be different. No, it's not. This is why these are so valuable to you. Because if this property, I mean, look at, it goes up so much quicker. Now look at 10 years. 65% of it in 10 years. Let's look in 15 years. 74% of the payment is going toward principal. So that's why buying something that has these low interest rate mortgages and holding them long term, your principal goes up faster than any other kind of interest rate you will ever find in your lifetime. Because we will probably never see that again. But there's a lot of them that exist because people don't want to move. Right? But they are starting to say, like, okay, I need a bigger house. Like we're starting to see some movement on that. But I have 2 kids that both have 2.5% interest rates. They feel trapped because they're like, how are we going to beat that, right? Okay, huge. Now let's look at this. Look at this. So here is 2.5%, 4.5%, and 6.5%. These are the monthly payments, interest and principal only, right? PI, these. So this is the difference in the payment. This is how much goes towards principal. This is how much goes toward interest. Principal, interest, principal, interest. Principal, interest, principal, interest, principal, interest. Principal, interest, principal. I mean, if you're at a higher interest rate loan, you have to be way past 15 years to even start to have any kind of effect like these lower interest rate ones do.
This is huge.
And I guarantee you, nobody knows this stuff. Like I'm telling you, because I did not know this. I'm not saying I'm a smartest person with the book, but that's what I do for a living, you guys, these kind of deals. And I never caught this because I never actually compared, because I would just look at, oh, this deal is 3%. So I just looked at that amortization schedule. I never compared them side by side.
Yeah, one of the things that I told my team is from this presentation, thank you for those that showed up that aren't agents, but for those that are us that are agents, we should be after these.
Oh my God, you absolutely
Like,
should.
we have to go and get them. Like, this is great for us, and then also for our clients to give them some great.
Yeah, it'd be better like if you take them or whatever, because it's harder to offer them to, say, Joe Blow third party as a client and you're getting paid. If you don't know who that person is and they don't pay them, they don't have any control. It's the mortgage is in their name and they just gave up title. For sure. So it's very risky for that part. But there are ways to also revert back and do some other things, but that's a lot more advanced strategy. So this is like a big deal right here. Are there any questions on that? Because that's like, it took me a long time to really have this resonate with me. So
We had a property that we recently sold and we had a lower rate. And we saw that from just a little bit difference in the rate. We held it for 6 years. We sold it 2 of them. And we bought for 150, or the was 150. We owed 112. The other one, we owed about the same, but we owed, because of the rate, it was like 130. So it made
it makes a very big difference over time, especially. I mean, this is huge. Now, I put like no realtors for subject twos. Not that you can't buy, but you shouldn't sell that way, or just be very cautious. If you have a question on it, you're not sure how to make sure you're protected, then you can call me. But always determine your exit strategy, like whatever. Are you going to lease option it to a tenant buyer? Are you going to flip it, sell it? Are you going to rent it? Are you going to wrap it? Just don't do a sub two. Like I wouldn't give a title that a seller gave me to do a subject to another person, because I don't ever want to be, I want to make sure that seller is protected. So if that person didn't pay them, I don't want, number one, I don't want them suing me saying, you ripped me off, you took my deed, and now I got to pay this person. I don't know who they are, So just be cautious of that. So I just don't do that. That's my philosophy on those. This is what my book looks like. Just make sure if you do get one, get the one with the red seal on it. You can just search Amazon. You'll see my name. I've got multiple books, but this is my very best book for investing. This is a very good book, and it's very updated. It's very easy to follow, and it goes through a lot of like, this is what needs to be in the contract. This is how you need to negotiate with sellers. This is how you find them. This is some scripts you can use. Realtors, how they can do these things as being a real estate agent for their clients as well.
Is this an Audible version or just?
I have Audible on there. I read it myself.
I like it.
Yeah, I read it myself. But I like the physical, and I'll tell you why I like the physical, because you can see the charts when you need to figure out, you change certain terms on the lease option. It's hard to like verbally have someone understand what that looks like, whereas they can physically see it the other way. But if you need it for driving or whatever, it's possible. So there's ways you guys can contact me if you want. I'll also give you my cell phone. I'll give it to this room. This is something that goes on to other audiences, but my cell phone, if you need it, it's 248-866-3585. And I'll tell you. Okay, so you guys, you want to hear about my best deal ever?
Cool story.
This is my favorite deal ever, okay? Like, I love this one. This has nothing to do with subject twos or lease options, okay? But this is the last deal I did, and I just closed on this in December of this year, and it is just my favorite deal ever. So I found this Detroit mansion, and I'll pull it up, let's see. And this is really quick, and then if you guys have questions. So this is what it looks like after I painted it and did some stuff to it. But I found this deal. It was from a realtor friend. Here's the deal. You need to network with other real estate agents. I mean, if you're an agent in real estate, the real estate agents in here need to network with lots of agents, right? If you are a client of a real estate agent in here, they will be networking and finding these deals because you have to go through an agent to get these deals. This was a probate deal, and they get listed by real estate agents. And I have a friend who does some probate work with attorneys, and so she gets these deals. Well, last summer, she called me up. She goes, hey, I got this deal. This Detroit doctor died. She has no husband, no children. She was in her 70s, and she just has a long-lost brother. And they don't even talk to each other. He's in Atlanta. This house is in Detroit. It's actually spectacular, Wendy, but it's a hoarder house. And I was like, oh, okay. And she goes, but there's good stuff in the hoarder house. And I go, okay. She goes, jump in the car with me, I'll take you down there. And she goes, if you want it, also the lady has a bunch of other properties. I said, okay. So we went down there. I go through the house, and it just had beautiful stained glass in different places and just gorgeous stuff. I'll kind of show you guys. It was located in this Woodbridge district in Detroit. This is an important thing. We don't have a lot of historic homes here, or me could have gotten grants and things like that because of that registry. This home was like 8,200 square feet with 3,100 square feet in the lower level. On top of that, in the basement, we call it the basement, even though it was built in the 1800s, this basement was 9 foot high. Very unusual. The front doors, 8 foot high. All the doors, 8 foot high. That's very unusual for back then. This was like a very wealthy family who started in Detroit. They had the first pickling company there for pickling food and keeping it fresh or whatever. They also, it had a 700 square foot attic that was very big and could be finished. And actually the buyer is finishing that. He's finishing that. But it was full of stuff too. So this place, well, this is what it looked like when I first walked in. Now that's not your typical hoarder house, but it's definitely a lot of crap. And there was junk everywhere, and good stuff underneath. You could kind of see there was some cool, in here you can't really tell. It's like, ugh, but then there was like antique furniture and pieces in there. And so what my crew did, I bought a lot of hoarder houses over the years, a lot of them. And I've never, ever, ever touched one thing in one house. I've told my guys, they come in with big trucks and stuff, and I go, I don't care what you find. You don't have to tell me. Just get this stuff out. And if you get $1 million, well, good luck. Yay. Because I want this house cleared out. That's all I care about. You don't have to tell me what you find. This house, I went through it, and I told my guys, I go, well, guys, this is going to be different. Because Wendy is going to be with you on every step of the way. I was so excited. I actually worked in this house every single day. My guys worked there. And even one of my daughters, who not into real estate, but she came in and helped me with the cleanup with another girl. And then we had about 5 or 6 guys that would load the stuff that after we went through everything, we would bag them, they would load them, all the garbage they would load. And this place was crazy. But I'll tell you, ladies, this was one of this is where I knew. I found when we were walking through the house, there were some doors you couldn't even get in. You're like just looking, you're like, it's just full of stuff. And I'm like, and there's like 3 stories plus the attic, plus the basement, and the garage was full. And I opened this one door and I see this shoe rack there. And I see these red bottom shoes. And I was like, huh? So I picked them up and I was like, I didn't even know what those were until like a year before that, because my girlfriend has a bunch of these, and the Christian Louboutin or whatever. I now know what it is, okay? But I'm like the down-to-earth Crocs girl, okay? You know, I can afford all those. I have them. As a matter of fact, in this room, all those shoes were my size. Okay, but I didn't keep one of them because they're like that high. Ugh. Anyway, so I found over 30 pairs of really high-end shoes. This is just like, oh, I don't even think that shows all. Yeah, so you could kind of see, but every name you name it, like Prada, Louis, Christian Louboutin. I had a signed one, Christian Louboutin. That's my foot. See, you can see it's my size, but I thought I'd break my ankle on those. And then these boots, oh, hoochie mama, oh man, those things sold. These things were like brand new. This was a brothel in the 1990s. Yeah, not very long ago. And so these were the shoes of the madam. Because trust me, there was lots of other shoes. And they were of the hooker shoes, you know. They were like they were raunchy and like, ow. I'm like, no one's gonna wear these. Like someone came in and goes, oh, those look like hooker shoes. I'm like, those aren't hooker shoes. These are like $1,000, $2,000 shoes. No, those were the madam shoes, you know. But anyway, so these all, when we cleaned out the house, we got all the pairs together. And I decided that I was gonna do an estate sale with everything left in the house. And I found this company that wanted proof that this was a brothel. And I had to show them proof, which means we found every appointment book for the brothel with the first and last name of all the men and the women who they were with. And I just showed it to them. Yep, that's what you got to see. That's all you get. And I took them off site because I didn't want to get killed if that became public, right? Because obviously there's a reason that they never got busted in the 1990s. What do you think that reason is? They had some high-end customers that were like in politics and the police department, you know? So it was like a big deal. But anyways, this, they brought in the news and there was a big newspaper article on it. This was like, it was on TV for this estate sale. So when this estate sale opened, everything was cleaned out. All the garbage was cleaned out. And then everything was ready to go. And I would kind of help them there, staging stuff. And I kept a few things like these earrings are from there. I only got one pair of silver earrings, one pair of gold earrings. I think this lady had a boyfriend that took all the good stuff off the top. He must have known, like there was not one purse here. Not one good purse. Like not one purse matched those shoes. And I was like, did he know about purses and not shoes? Because that was so weird that there would be no purses. Am I right, ladies? Like if you have nice shoes, you're gonna have nice purses too. Or you might have nice purse before you have nice shoes. I don't know. Anyway. But I thought that was really weird. But they did this whole thing, and this house, they let 50 people in at a time for the estate sale, and there was a lot, it's hard to visualize this. This is in the city of Detroit, in a very nice area, and there was a line all the way through the front door, all the way down to the sidewalk, all the way around to the corner. It was on a corner lot, and all the way down, halfway down this sidewalk for 5 days in a row to get into this house. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the first things that sold were? Not the good shoes. The hooker shoes. Yeah, everything on the hooker table sold right away. I was like, it was just for decoration to show, like, because everyone knew it was a brothel. And these women came and was like, oh, you're buying that thing? That's so gross. And it was like, whoosh, gone. I was like, oh. Anyway, we took out 18 dumpsters before the sale, 18 30-yard dumpsters. That's the garbage after we left this. And I told you the sale went for 5 days. So this is kind of it, like during the estate sale, everything was set up with the clothes and the shoes and the furniture. And that was after all the garbage came out of it. And that was after the estate sale and everything was cleaned out. Kind of gives you like an idea how these were the 8-foot entryway doors. It was just beautiful woodwork, and it was a really cool thing. But here's what the numbers were. I bought it for $400,000. Actually, it never went on the market. This is an unusual case for probate, but it was with a realtor. And the reason it didn't is because in Michigan, this house had gone through foreclosure. They didn't know where the brother was or anything. And so this house had a mortgage on it and it went through foreclosure. And in Michigan, you get 6 months of redemption after foreclosure. So this was like 2 months into redemption, and the next door neighbor had bought it for $280 or something because he knew what was in it. I mean, he had already gone in, you know. And she came to me and said, hey, the neighbor's got this. He's trying to get this redemption reduced to, you know, like the next 30 days. So if you want this, you got to make an offer of like 400 grand. It's got to be like cash and quick. So I did. And I got that for that house for that because I was able to jump on it quickly and do it. We cleaned out, okay, this is basically our clean out and plaster repair cost. I had to put a new roof on it. It was leaking and the plaster inside had to be refixed. And this house sold at the estate sale. Okay. I printed out 800 flyers or 600 or 800, I can't remember. And they had to put them in every bag. And I got a call the second day. A doctor and his wife called and said, hey, our friends said they saw this estate sale, that they think this house might be for us. Can we see it? And I said, sure. They came the next day before the estate sale and they said, we'll take. They said, what do you want for it? I said, 800. They said, we're going to go home and talk about it. They called me that night and they said, we'll take it. Sold. Okay. So I had to put a new roof on it too. And that was very expensive because it was a special, number one, it was a big house. It was 4 stories up and it was slate on there. And for me to repair the slate was $180,000 with my slate that was in the garage. To put a new slate roof on was $500,000. If this was zone historic, I would have had to do slate. But I found a slate asphalt shingle that was kind of expensive and it looks really cool. So it looks like slate, but it's a 50-year asphalt shingle. So that's why it was a little bit more. It would have probably been 70 grand if it wasn't for that. I put 2 new furnaces in it and I had to pay insurance and some utilities and stuff like that. So my total expenses were about $561. So I also got half of the estate sale. It sold for 70, so everything sold for 75 grand in the estate sale. And I got 37.5 on that. Commission to sell was 0. I accepted an offer for 800 grand. And right after, and I moved. And then I came to Arizona for the winter. And I don't know if you know, but the weather in Detroit was horrible this year. The whole east part of the country was very cold. And it was so cold. And I was like, man, my utility bills are going to be like $800, $1,000, you know, every month. And pipes could burst. And I'm like, I can't turn off the water because they're older and I don't want anything to happen, you know. And so the appraiser called me up and goes, hey, I don't see 8,200 square feet in here. I only see 7,300. I said, well, I have blueprints in there. Did you see the blueprints? He said, yeah, but I've measured it twice or 3 times. And so he said, I came up with a value of 770. So I had to think, okay, do I want to take 770 or do I, you know, or because are they going to pay more than 770 if they don't, or do I want to fight the square footage? And I took the 770 because I always say a bird in the hand and I take my money and run with it. So anyways, it ended up selling for 770.
Wow.
Okay, and if you want to watch my whole videos, you guys, I videotaped the entire thing, including all the Fox News stuff that ran on it. And if you want, you can watch the whole thing. I mean, it's hilarious, the whole thing. I walked through, because I videotaped every step of the way on this particular deal. So anyway, any questions you guys have? Because I know I'm a little bit over time here.
No, you're good. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. I mean, it was such a satisfying, fun project. It's the project that lights me up in my career. And I thought maybe I should never do another one because it just made me so happy, you know. The other thing I do a lot of too, you guys, is deals through my Roth IRA. So this is something really important too. As you start building wealth, you don't want to do all of your deals outside of your retirement account. You want to do some in your retirement account. This one I didn't do in my Roth because I didn't have enough cash at the time. I do a lot of hard money lending and I have some other properties that are from in there and I didn't have enough to do everything on this. I didn't do this one through there, but I did another hoarder house last year that another wholesaler brought to me for a really great deal. And I closed on, I was going to close on it and I knew it was a tear down or could be because of where it was located for new construction. And I called one of my friends who has a builder buddy and he immediately said, yeah, I've got a buyer for you. I said, well, I'm not cleaning it out it's a hoarder house. And I go, you got to get rid of all that. And they were like, okay. And I did that through my Roth IRA. And that put 70 grand in my Roth tax-free last year, just that one deal. And if you can find those kind of, because, I don't do every deal. I just do like special ones that come to me on a platter like these now. But how many do you need? You know what I mean?
For sure.
And especially if you can get that money tax-free and build up your retirement account. I never thought I would turn 59 and a half, and I barely am, so.
And talk
It's
about,
true, that is true.
yeah, and talk about how do you build wealth without having a lot of money, because people think, well, you need to have money. Well, there's people with money, private
Yeah.
money, they can put the
Yeah.
deals together, or
Yeah.
the rats are subject to, so.
I started with nothing, so, and I had to use other people's money or creative ways to buy, which I think was like the best thing that was possible for me was to start being broke because I had to learn creative deals, structuring. And when you have to learn that, then you become a really good investor, and then you start looking for opportunities throughout your career of investing. Oh, I was going to mention, so I do love every aspect of real estate, but I have a couple really good friends who are great investors. They just do it part-time. Like one of my good friends, he's a pastor full-time. And that's his passion. That's what he likes doing. But they don't make a lot of money. So he does lease options 5 hours a week and he makes over 100 grand a year.
Love it.
And he goes, that's where he makes his money. His pastor doesn't, he doesn't get that much as a pastor. He makes more in real estate, but he doesn't love real estate. It just makes good money for him. So for some people, it's just an add-on. And for some people, it is the thing. For me, it was the thing.
So tell us, fast forward from zero, broke, to now, can you share your net worth? Or is that too much to ask?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't share that, but it's good.
Rental properties.
I don't have very many anymore rental properties. I only have 7 right now.
At the peak, how many did you own at the end of it?
175 I owned at one time.
175 properties.
And well, now I have 157 units. I guess I do have more. But
Is it a building or?
it's multiple buildings. It's townhomes or 50 units, and then I have an apartment complex that's 107.
Okay. Good.
So, and I say that only one because I'm like very hesitant, I've got like family in here. No, I'm kidding. But also it's just like, but I can tell you that it grows exponentially. There's this thing that they say, and it's really true. You start broke and you're like this. You go like this. You start here and you're broke. And they say sudden, slowly, suddenly.
Yep.
And that's what happened to me. I just kept
gradually.
my head down, and I still do. I still don't, because you get in such a habit of being like very focused. I don't have those fancy shoes. I could have all of those. I could have kept them all number one, and I could buy them anyways. You know what I mean? But I don't want them. That's not me anymore, right? That's just not who I am. I have a really nice house. I have I have an expensive home that's, of course, free and clear, and a nice townhome on a lake in Michigan as well. I have a great life. We don't have any debt. We don't, we can travel anywhere in the world we want, anytime we want. And the money that I lend out for hard money loans, a lot of people that are hard money lenders, they don't use their own money. We do. We use all our own money. I partner with a few people. They would be like my bookkeeper or someone who wants to get in on a deal. I'm helping her. So if she's got 40 grand, I'll put it in with my deal and let her keep her money working too. Because I want my people that have worked for me a long time to be able to create wealth as well, and grow it. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And now, you think about like but it takes time. Like eventually you have to figure out, okay, I decided to take all my rentals, and I also do a lot of investing in other people's deals, syndications. I'm in a lot of syndications where, they put it together. You just have to find the right syndicator, because that's a big issue. I found the wrong one, which is how I ended up with 157 units. I didn't want that project. I was an investor in it.
Gotcha.
And the guy that was running it for everyone decided to file bankruptcy. So I stepped in just to protect my money and everyone else's. So that's how I ended up being that asset manager of that one. But otherwise, you put money in, and if they're a good syndicator, like a lot of the syndicators I work with, one of them, my favorite one, I make 12 to 20% on everything. Yeah. There's nothing that's been, his worst deal ever was 10.
Yep. And it's getting your foot in the door. As you go, you progress. And there's a lot of stuff that probably went over you guys' head, but this is the way you get started. And like she said, it's was it gradually and then suddenly?
Yeah, grow slowly, suddenly.
Yeah. So just patience.
And I would track. So one, I also would, this is one really important thing, is I kept, and I still do, I keep my net worth sheet. It's a financial spreadsheet. And I put all my assets on there. And I update it at least every 6 months. When I was younger, I did it every 3 months because I wanted to see like, hey, I went from, when you cross over that first million, it was like, whoa. And I helped one of the guys in my mastermind. We were in this meeting one time and they had never done their little net worth. And he was like 970,000 net worth. And he's like, it was like October. And he said, I cannot believe I'm that close to $1 million. And he said, I have to figure out how to make 30 grand net to my net by the end of the year so I can hit the $1 million. And I'm sure now, and that was probably 7 years ago. Now, once you hit that, I'm sure he's probably 3 or 4 million now. Because that's the hardest one, right? That first $1 million. And then it just like, now I could kick off $1 million or $2 million every year just in passive.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
So,
and we actually, through my coach, I got that net worth sheet. We did it yesterday with my wife.
Good.
Yeah, so it's like a game, and
Yes.
we hit our first $1 million in 2021.
Yeah, that's
and then
awesome.
when you start seeing it grow, and
Yes.
it's exciting, right? And one of the things you could be afraid of that, but as time goes on, then we were just talking yesterday, okay, what if I sell this? When we sell this, we pay this off,
Yes.
and then we'll start getting more money off of our money. But again, until you get to that point, you have to borrow, and you have to get there.
Yeah,
and
you
maybe
do.
use these
You do.
creative ideas. So don't be afraid of jumping in. And it takes time. It's
Yeah,
not overnight, 40 years.
Yeah, so when I first met my husband now that I have, my second husband, I met him in the early 2000s, and I had 175 properties when I met him. And he said, why do you have that many? Like to him, it was like, that was awful, And I said, well, I don't know, I just collect them, And he's like that, he goes, but you don't even have that many shoes, And I always joke, I was like, you're right. I need to go shopping, But really, and what he helped me see that actually the 175 all leveraged was so much more work, and I didn't enjoy that part of it as much because it was a lot of management. I was doing my own management, and that's when I turned over my property management to 2002. I turned it over actually after I met Michael, and he said, "Why don't you just sell a lot of these and pay the rest off?" And let's go through the math and let's just look at it. And we figured it out. And if I had 30 free and clear, they made net more money than all of them together. And it was so much less headache. Like I would not even need a property manager if I wanted to do it myself or anything like that. But you have to have staff if you got 175, right? You've got to have someone helping you. And he's like, well, you make less money on that than these other things in your life. Let's look at like where you are. And I realized I was making 20% of my income from that and 80% from other things. So we started focusing, but it was taking 80% of my time.
Right.
So we kind of reduced that. And even though I didn't get the appreciation for all of those over time, but you got the idea. You can.
But that 175 allowed you to pay all these off, so you can have
Absolutely.
that. So it takes time, and you're going to have to deal with that.
And you figure out what you like.
100%.
Because you might love, look, when I say I don't like tenants, let me tell you, tenants made me a lot of money. So it's not that I don't like them at all. I just don't want to know who they are. I used to be in the grocery store. They're like, hey, Wendy, remember me from 108 North whatever street? I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I don't want them to know who I am. I don't want to interact with them. I don't want to get the call at midnight to say that my pipe burst or whatever. That's just me. But I did do that for a time. So you go through these phases and then you see what do you like, what don't you like, what's your best skill set. For me, my best skill set was always just negotiating and making deals happen. And I love fix and flips too. I really love them. But I never used to speak on those because I was known for the lease option stuff. But I actually love those too because I love to go in and make something like this thing. And I didn't rent it. Oh, by the way, I didn't even renovate the mansion. I didn't even have a kitchen on the first floor. Okay, so the buyer is doing that. I had a choice. I could have turned it into 5 condos, or 4 or 5 and sold them for 500 each. I mean, could have sold, this thing could have sold for a couple million, but I didn't want to mess with that. That was a different level. And I decided that I don't know who the buyer is. Is it an investor who wants to split it? Is it an end buyer? And this guy and his wife, he's a doctor, and he wanted to live there. So they're finishing the attic, and they've got 5 kids, and they're thrilled,
Awesome.
And they're going to invite me back when it's all done. But that's kind of cool. But you'll find out your own thing. Like, you're going to find what's best for you.
Definitely.
And but it's one step at a time. You're right. You got to take action. If you don't take any action, you got nothing. So if you're busy and you have a great job and you make good money, then having a little negative cash flow to have a rental it could be a good option for you, especially if you get a little bit of a discount on it, a motivated seller who's willing to sell for a little bit less. There's always motivated sellers. You might not know who they are, which is why we as agents, right, when you have a listing, you get these weird offers.
Yep.
Because they're throwing them out against the wall to see who bites, because someone will.
Yep.
Someone bites. Someone's motivated. Someone needs to get out now. I mean, you think about all these deals over the years, hundreds and hundreds of deals where people, they have a different situation. They have a need. I mean,
Life changes.
like one lady, she came to my group. I run the Michigan Real Estate Investors Group, and she came to my group meeting, and I was teaching people how to find good deals. And she came up after and she goes, I want to learn. I'm here to learn how to be a good investor, but right now I need you to buy my house the way you just talked about how you buy everyone else's. I am that seller. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, this just happened a few weeks. It happened in February. And here, I didn't want to drop it. I didn't know.
Is this for me?
And you find these people, and I said, well, why? Why would you want to sell to me? And I always want to understand the seller situation. I mean, I'm not going to change your mind anyways. I will always try to tell them, why don't I just list it for you? I don't have time. Well, why don't you have time? I need the money now. Well, why? Can you tell me why you need the money now? Well, I've got like car payments due. I'm back on this and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, you're going to take a hit of like 50 grand. She's, I don't care.
It'll fix my problem.
I need you to get me out next week.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yep. I used to not even look at deals like that. I had a lady that same way. I gave her every option, and she's like, Juan, I have a pile of letters from investors. I'm like, all right, I'll buy it from you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so smart. Like being in real estate too, you do find these good opportunities that can come your way. And if you don't want to do them, then, you like you said, you can have a client that does them or wholesale them. Or, I mean, and if you guys run across subject twos and you don't want to do them, let me know. I might be interested.
All right.
I might build a portfolio here if you had those deals. You get commission or whatever, or you learn how to do, or have you want to do it yourself? I'll tell you how. I don't care.
Definitely.
So,
well, thank you, Wendy, so much.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
We have to change the way we think in order for us to change the way we live our life, right? And a lot of people think that by earning money is the way to grow by having a job. But when you're having a job, you're basically selling your time for money, right? And that's why you get paid by the hour. However, I was talking to these investors a couple of days ago, and we were talking and masterminding and talking about how we can make some investments, and we think a little bit different than most people when it comes to work. And I said a lot of people would see that kind of time as a waste of time, but one of the most valuable time you'll have is when you sit down and think and kind of start figuring out ways to have the money work for you, right? And that's basically what we're talking about here when it comes to real estate, is as you buy these properties, these rental properties, they're going to be working for you in the long run. And it's not overnight. It's going to take time. But if you're patient, it'll definitely pay off. Here, I'm going to move this over here. I got it. It's okay. So, again, investors think a little bit different. And their time is going to be used in a different way. I want to show you guys an experiment they did with monkeys, because this illustrates how we follow the crowd, right? And we are the 5 people we hang out with. So let me just have you guys watch it real quick and get a little idea as to where we're going with this. Hang on, sorry about that.
Whenever a monkey went to climb the ladder, the other monkeys in the room. The scientist placed 4 monkeys in a room with a step ladder and a on which there was a bunch of bananas. Whenever a monkey went to climb the ladder, the other monkeys in the room were sprayed with cold water. After a while, each time a monkey went for the bananas, the others would attack it to prevent it from doing so. The monkeys learned to never climb the ladder. But then, one of the monkeys was removed, and a new monkey wearing a raincoat was introduced. Naturally, this monkey went for the bananas, and it was customarily attacked and prevented from doing so by the others. This new monkey learned not to climb the ladder. So when another monkey was substituted in and made for the bananas, all the others attacked it, including the one in the raincoat, despite the fact that it had never been sprayed with cold water. A third monkey was substituted in, and then a fourth final monkey. And still, whenever a monkey tried to climb the ladder, the others would prevent it from doing so, even though none of them had ever been sprayed with the cold water. When asked why this was, one monkey said, "That's just the way it is."
Who has heard that? Have you been told that, this is just the way it is? Growing up, one of the things that I was told is, that's not for us, right? Like, that's for rich people. That's for people that were born in the right family and with the right pedigree, right? And I'm like, why? Why can't we all do the same thing, right? We're children of God. He gave us all the same abilities or different talents, right? So I've always questioned, like, why are we different? Why can't we do it? And it's just our mindset, how we think differently. Because we've been conditioned as to how to think, right? So we go to school to learn how to sit, get up, follow orders, and never question anything. Because this is the way it is, right? So I've been that oddball that questions everything, and I just don't follow the crowd. I can't. I'm a little rebellious, I guess. But any ahas from that video? Want to hear you guys. Anybody? Did it hit home? Did you guys see how that can be? How can we be conditioned by following others and not even questioning it because this is the way it's been? So the big question is, why do some people build generational wealth while others just work their whole lives and get nowhere? Do you guys have any family members or friends that you know that they work their whole life and they get to retirement and they can't retire? They have to keep working because they can't afford their taxes, or they don't even own a home? I don't want to be there. And that's the reason I've been doing these seminars is I see it time and time again, people coming here to buy their first home in their 60s, mid-60s, late 50s. And it breaks my heart because I'm like, how come nobody told them about this? My father was like Sergio's dad. He wanted to go to Mexico as soon as possible. So when I was 11 years old, he retired. And when I say retired, I'm not saying he retired with the pension and with money in the bank and with all kinds of investments. The only thing we was having was the Social Security check. And to me, it's a very vivid memory. When I was 11 years old, we were living in this couple's house. My father rented a room from them, and we slept on the floor on an old mattress. And I'm like, at 11 years old, I'm like, there's got to be something better than this, right? But my dad never wanted to stay here, so he never purchased a home, even though when he got to California, homes were $12,000. Can you guys imagine? And my dad was doing really well. He made a bunch of money when he was there, and he was blessed enough that he built a home in Mexico. He bought some land, so he had a place to go. And with the retirement, it was enough. And my father was content. I mean, he was happy. Like, you could never tell that he didn't have any need. Growing up, his house was a hut, literally, that he burned down. He tells me that, my grandpa was pretty upset about that. But just knowing that he lived in a beautiful house, a 2-story house that my mom, when he was doing well, built. So he was content and he had a good life. Yet I know that there was one thing that he told me when I was younger. My dad was 80 when he passed. He passed about 14 years ago. And one of the things, he wanted to go to this vacation that I never took him. So it's one of the things that it's in my head. And for that reason, I'm like, I'm going to work my butt off to make enough to have a better life than well, not a better life, because he was content. But for me, it's a different life for my kids. And we've been able to travel and do all kinds of things in a different way. And I've been able to do this by investing and growing our wealth little by little through real estate. So it's possible. When I'm sitting here in front of you guys, I haven't made it yet because I know there's plenty more to do. Yet we've had so far a pretty good life. So again, why do some people make it in the same place with the same opportunities? The difference is the way you think, right? I'm a high school dropout. I'm nothing special. I think there's a lot of people way smarter than I am. Unfortunately, I think sometimes that holds people back because they know it all. And to me, I'm a long life student. I'm never going to start learning, every day. I wake up, my kids can attest to that. I always read. I'm learning. And as I mentioned, the books, the things that have changed my life, I mention them to you guys so that you guys can also benefit from it. One of the truths that no one told you is it's not education. But like I said, I'm a high school dropout. I didn't go to college. So that's not the case. We'll talk to Wendy when she gets here. She has a beautiful story. It's about luck. I think, they say that success is when preparation meets opportunity. And the reason can you guys give yourself a round of applause, please? You guys are here and you could be home or hanging out with family or just going to the park and having a picnic and not, learning about this stuff. But it's not about luck. It's about how do you learn to see the opportunities. Andres' deal that we just recently got, I called this client. He's selling the property to an investor. That investor is giving him less money. I offer a little bit more. He got a house with, you put down $36,000? $35,000. Did you get it with equity?
I did, yeah.
How much?
I would say minimum, like 40 to 45,000.
So you got about $45,000 in equity with $35,000 in, and then you're cash flowing every month how much?
200.
So he's making $200 a month and $35,000 that he put down, but then also he gets deductions. This guy makes a lot of money, and it's good, right? But there's nothing wrong with that. But if I wouldn't have known that there was an opportunity there, I wouldn't have seen it, right? But that's why it's important to have the right people in front of you. So like we get deals and we'll share them with those people that are telling us, hey, if you get something that is good, share with me. So congrats on that purchase, by the way. It's about connections. This is actually real because you do have to meet the right people, right? But how do you do that? By being here. There's people that are here that can help you do it. It's about time. Some people say, well, you're lucky because you bought back then. Well, I can buy right now, and then in 5 years, you're going to say, you were lucky because you bought back then. So every time as time goes on, those opportunities are there, but we don't see them, right? Unless you're aware. I think awareness is like the biggest aha that I've ever had in this business is being aware. Because a lot of times we're walking like zombies, right? We go to work, we relax on the weekends, we go back to work, and then you get to retirement, and now what? You're going to continue to work the rest of your life. I don't think that's going to be the case for any one of you guys, but that's what most people have. That's what happens to most people. So again, it all starts with the mindset. Do you think it's possible? Right? I think that's the first step. Are you first of all, willing to work hard? Because you will have to work hard, right, Andres? And then how do you think about money? We were shaped by that money doesn't grow on trees, and you think I'm just have a money machine here printing money, or we all were taught those sayings that kind of shaped our mind and say, well, it's not possible, but the government just prints more money. Another good book is, hang on, let me think about it. The Lords of Easy Money. When you read that book, you'll never, ever, ever want to save any penny again. Because you see how the government just prints money. They don't care. So I buy assets that, over time, they appreciate and gives you more. So what you do shapes your financial future. So basically, by being here, you're going to learn some things that are going to put you to think. And hopefully this opens up your mind to, okay, what's possible? What have I learned? What do I know? And where can I get from here? Again, this is the first step. The silent mistake is working does not guarantee that you're going to become wealthy. How many people do you guys know that had a regular job that got to become wealthy? Any rich hard workers out there? Right? So the way to create wealth is with ideas. A lot of people work their whole life and they have nothing to show for. Working more hours, now it's cool that I guess you don't have to pay taxes on overtime, which is awesome, right? But I'd rather work on other things that make me more money than that. So what you need to change is the system itself. And how do you think? So traditional script is you go to school, work hard, save money, and then retire. But again, we just talked about that. That's just a fallacy. It's not real. We've been sold that idea, but one of the things that I would also encourage you to think is Social Security was not there to basically be your retirement. It was there to supplement it, right? But how many people here are investors or investing in the stock market or real estate or companies, oil, anything? And these are the things that kind of blow my mind. Again, not going to school, I'm like, why don't they teach this stuff in school? Why don't they teach us how to become self-sufficient, right? But that's not their goal. I don't know if you guys know, the Rockefellers came up with schools so that for the Industrial Revolution to provide employees to the companies and not really to have a society that's, wealthy and prominent. Another good thing, if you guys like Netflix, Titans, watch it if you can. You'll learn a ton about how money works. So again, this system of going to school and working was just to create reliable employees and not investors. Yeah.
One point there, the corporation, right? The corporation system was designed, right, to what Juan's talking about, right? In the past, people.
Turn the microphone stop.
Right, that's where most of the taxes came from the rich, right? So somebody developed a system called corporation. And the corporation was designed to provide workers, so they, convince the government, saying, hey, let us get these corporate incentives, corporate tax breaks, right? Well, no, because we want to tax you more, right? We want to tax you. So the corporation system was developed, and the way they convinced them was that they said, we're going to provide you workers that you can tax. And you're going to make more money off of that. So that's kind of how the corporation system is what it is today, right? Is because we'll provide a lot of people that you can tax, and you're going to get more than just taxing us.
And there's a disruption going on, thank you, Sergio, with AI and all the technology, because people are more aware. We talked about awareness earlier, is how do you realize that you've been duped all this time, right? And you realize that all the degree you went to school for, there's like a lot of people that have the same degree and there's not enough opportunities for you. So this is why I think this is one of the greatest things. I mean, Andres, he decided not to go to college, but he's been in college the last 4 years and he's making a pretty good income from that. And not only him, I mean, all the other, and I mentioned him because he's the youngest, right, Raul? We and I are a little older here, but we're having a good life. We're enjoying the fruits of our labor. And it's not because we followed the crowd, it's because we did something different, which is reaping those rewards. So when you work, you get paid. If you don't, and this is one of the biggest questions that I would ask you guys that are considering investing is, what happens when you stop working with your income? Goes away, right? So wouldn't it be awesome? And again, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It takes time. It takes work. Yes, you're going to have to call the contractors or the handyman to do some work. But at the end of the day, eventually it's going to give you some good dividends so that when you can get to retirement, you can enjoy that. So most of the work or the income that we get is tied to physical effort. We have to, again, go to work. And that's what we've been taught. Now, when you have assets, they grow over time, and other people are paying for them, and that's the beauty of it. Some of the rentals that we have cash flow, some of them are even, and there's 2 or 3 that I'm negative on them. But the amount of appreciation I've gotten, because I'm blessed to be in this industry, and I've been seeing what's been going on, and the amount of equity surpasses way more the amount of money that I will pay, and as time goes on, they just keep growing and growing, so it's crazy how to see that. I'm going to take a little tangent to show you guys. I showed this to one of the investors. It's a good example. I just saw it last week, so I didn't put it as part of the presentation. But I'm going to show you guys just to see how wild this is. Let me look at this house real quick. Single family. So there's a property here in Verrado that sold for like $3.2 million. And that property, the lot itself, back in 2000 and actually can you look it up? Look at the messages I sent to Paul and look at the address for that property. While she looks at that, I'll continue. But Anyways, that lot was 450,000 in 2005. That's 20 years ago. So what do you guys think that lot was worth back in 2018? 450.05, 2018. What do you guys think? It's an acre lot in Verrado.
350.
120,000. And then it was sold again. What's the address? And then it was sold again for 250. And then it was sold again for 350. And now a house was built. And that house, 3202 North Mountain. I found the address. Let me show you guys. Because this is a good example of why I'm doing this. And I want to set that sense of urgency. And you guys, whoever's looking into investing, because time is of the essence. All right, 3202 Mountain Site, 32. And I want to show you from the MLS, and you guys can look this up on your own. If you want to grab the address, cool. And most of everything that I show you, I'm showing you that is real. It's not something that I imagine. That's not it. 3202 North Mountain Side, Road Loop 23. Okay, let's see. This is not it. Oh yeah, that's it. All right, so this one, for some reason, I'm gonna look up the MLS because it's a different number, 670, 1437. There was something wrong here. 670, 1437. All right, so this is the same property. Look for what it sold for. $3,450,000. Those lots today are $350,000. The houses today, the cheapest home is $2.7 million. And we're developing, so we're building. So if that's in your avenue, let me know because we can talk about that too. So this is where you don't have to work really hard to make that kind of money. You may have to get creative and how do I put it together, right? But this is just an example of how behind in prices we are. Because people think prices are so high right now. Really? 470 in 2005, 20 years ago, we're sitting in 2005 times prices. So when you think they're high, think again. I think we're in a beautiful, beautiful time. So again, but we repeat like the monkeys, everything that everybody else is saying, right? Interests are high, prices are high. Is that the case? And again, we talk about money doesn't grow on trees. Only invest if you have extra. But I would say invest. No matter what, you're going to always continue to spend more money than what you have. If we make $100,000, we'll spend it all. We'll find ways to spend everything that we can. We make 150, we'll get the nicest car, the nicest house, and so on and so forth, because we're used to that. But we need to start getting that habit into putting some of the money that you make aside to invest. And they also say that debt is bad, right? Debt is the best leverage that you can ever have. We were talking about earlier, is there any other place in the world where you can come in with 3%, 5%, 20% down to buy a home? In Mexico, for perspective, first of all, it's almost impossible to get a loan, even if you have a regular job, if you make good money. Second of all, the rates are in the 20% rate. It's crazy, right? So you'll always be in debt. But here we have great rates, great financing programs. And I use this example a lot where Sergio brought it up at one point. And he says, which investor, let's say you and I, Adrian, because you're a business owner. I want to go in business with you. Let's open that company that you have, and I'm going to give you 3% of it. But I want to keep all the money. Would you go in business with me? No, right? But the bank says, hey, you want a house? You're a vet? 100% financing. First of all, why do you think they are willing to bet that kind of money? Do you think it's safe? I mean, are they willing to invest that kind of money if they thought there was a lot of risk? So there's a lot of opportunity, right? So that not only that, but then who keeps the equity? I mean, you pay an interest rate, that's their gain. So anyways, that's something to keep in mind as well, that with little money down, you keep all the gain. Because people say, well, I bought a house for $300,000 and I only made $100,000. Well, how much did you put down? 3%? 10,000? And then you get everything back? Wendy's here, I don't know if she can get in on that. So again, we think that, we can get further, we can do it, it's impossible, but it's super easy. And again, we're here to help. A lot of people, run into failure and they quit. So psychologist Martin Seligman found that repeated failure can make the living being stopped trying. How many times did we find a wall and then we quit, right? We tried to get a loan, but we couldn't. I'm not going to buy. It's impossible, it's hard, but you can do it. Even when conditions change and success becomes possible, people may still be powerless and hopeless, but we come up with ideas like we don't have the money to invest. Again, the bank is here, right, Sergio? Well, that's not for me. For me, that's only for rich people. Or it's too late now, I'm too old. Colonel Sanders started Kentucky Fried Chicken after he was 60 years old, right? Because he couldn't support himself with the retirement he got. So he went and started knocking on doors, and we see Kentucky Fried Chicken even in England, right, when we went. So it's possible. Social conditioning, we are the average of the people we hang out with. And again, by you being here, this allows you to expand your mind and see the opportunities and see what's possible. So again, thank you for being here, guys. We appreciate you. If everybody around you lives paycheck to paycheck and take consumer debt and avoids investing, that becomes your norm. When I first got here to the U.S. to work, and I was married, good morning, Wendy, we lived in an apartment and we were paying $600 a month. And that to me seemed like it was a lot of money, right? And as time went on, we moved into a bigger apartment and then into a home. And every single time it was at the limit. And for those of you that bought your first home, when you bought it, was that the limit of your income? Was that like your cap? And you're like, man, I'm gonna barely make it. Well, that was the case for us too. But until you start seeing that everything else is possible, now that we have a bunch of properties and we have all this debt, it's still possible. We can still make it. But we could have stayed comfortable and say, you know what? This is all we can. We can expand ourselves. So by seeing other people doing it, it allows you the thinking that it's possible you can go further, right? If we focus just on our surroundings, we get stuck in thinking of that. That's the only way to go. So truth about investors, they don't have magical advantages. Again, I'm happy to see Wendy here. She's going to be speaking about how crazy her story was to start, and the investors don't have any magical advantages. They're not smarter than you are. They're just a little more daring, and they're willing to be uncomfortable, and they're willing to fail. A lot of us, what holds us back is that fear, right? And again, going back to school, how were we shaped when we were in school? Don't make mistakes. Don't copy people. Well, I copy a lot. Other people have success. I'd rather copy with people that are successful than try to figure it out on my own. There's a wheel out there, right? And if I can follow that wheel, it's going to make my success a lot easier. And they're not geniuses. I mean, look at me, right, Wendy? She knows me. I'm not a genius. Why are you telling me that, Wendy? Or you guys here? They don't have secret information. And honestly, one of the things that I've noticed is people that have success are very willing to share what they know. Super willing. The problem is that a lot of people don't follow the things that they have to do. It's uncomfortable. You're going to have to do things that you don't want to do. But if you want to have something you never had, you have to do something you never done, right? And they started just like you, right? Some people started buying houses with credit cards. How crazy is that, right? But we'll hear soon how that happened. But they do ask different questions, right? I was telling you that I'm a rebel. I don't follow the crowd. I'm like, well, what is that over there? How can I do it? Is that possible, right? Let me share something that I just remember from when we got married. When I was about 11, 12 years old, we were in Mexico. My brother had already retired, and he did very well. But because we grew up poor, we kept doing poor things, right? So we went to my sister's house to the beach. She lived like about an hour. So we would go to my sister, sleep on the floor. It's freaking humid, hot, but we were going to the beach. So we would get prepared for the next day and have our ceviche and our food and everything. And we would go and hang out by the beach in front of a really beautiful resort. And I would sit down and by that resort, and I'd be like, why don't we go in there? Look, they're eating. There's a restaurant. Instead of bringing the ice jets, freaking uncomfortable, we have to bring the chairs and everything. Why can't we just hang out over there? It looks more comfortable. They, I didn't know any better, but that's what I wanted. But as time goes on, that was one of my goals. Like, I didn't want that. I didn't want to go just keep bringing that ice chest with the ceviche. I'd rather just order the ceviche, give me my drink, enjoy the beach, and I have to go back to my sister's house, which was an hour away, after all sweaty with sand all over, you know how that is. So thank God, that made me think, like, how is that possible? How can I do that? Instead of saying, you know what, this is who we are. We can't do it. You're not part of that pedigree. You can't do those things. It's only for rich people. Well, why can't we? Why not? Right? So it only takes one of us to see what's possible and change our next generation and generation of others. So again, thank you guys for being here and doing that. So we take risks. It's like I said, it's not comfortable at all. And those risks sometimes, Viviana was telling me earlier, sometimes I see you worry a lot. I see you concerned. It's by choice. Honestly, what I do, I love my life. I love what I do. There's times and there's things that I don't like doing it, and I'm working on getting rid of those, right? Because again, we're not a tree. We can move. If there's something you don't like, you can look for other things to do, but you have to have the courage and the willingness to be uncomfortable, right? I don't know if you guys know that lobsters, in order for them to grow, they have to get out of their shell. You guys have heard that term, right? So do you think they're vulnerable? Forget my English, Spanglish. So what they do is they remove their shell and they go under a rock until the new shell grows. It's uncomfortable. Just imagine, just waiting for someone to eat you, right? But that's the way it is. Like, in order for you to grow, you have to be willing to do the uncomfortable. So, and again, if you're not ready, we have this saying, as entrepreneurs, we jump out of the building and then we'll build a parachute on the way down. Don't be reckless like me, do a little bit of homework. And again, I don't think you are. That's why you're here. But I do ask a lot of questions, and all the people that are successful, they're going to tell you that, they took a risk. They were really willing to be uncomfortable. And because of that discomfort, they were able to grow. My job will make me rich. I'm not going to go deep on that because we know that's not the case. You're making somebody else rich by working for their dreams and not yours. So to me, I think that's a given, right? Work's the starting point, and we all have to start somewhere, right? We cannot get to point Z if we don't start from A, B, and C, and D. But can we talk to ChatGPT and maybe give us a few answers so that we don't have to go through the whole alphabet, right? So I think that for me is the most important part. Ask the right questions. Again, we all have to start somewhere and work. I know some people, Michael, one of my friends, he's never worked. He's never had a job. He's always been an entrepreneur and he's uber successful. And that makes you a little bit harder to even think about work. Like, I've been an entrepreneur for about 15 years and I don't even have a desire to go and apply to a job and be a slave, like working for someone, which again, I did for many years, right? But once you taste this, you're like, it's so worth it. The freedom is so worth it. Reality versus work versus assets. Work pays the bills. Salary covers most of your expenses, and that's why people get comfortable, and you have a comfortable lifestyle. You have the essentials, but you don't accumulate. The only way to expand and exponentially grow your wealth is by having assets, right? Things that appreciate with inflation. And every month you start from zero. I was always a paycheck from broke, and sometimes even shorter than that. I used to borrow from my best friend $100, $50 to make ends meet every week. But assets allow you to create wealth, property, business. Sergio was mentioning that a home is a home is a home, but it'll become an investment down the road, and it'll make a difference in your life, like becoming a millionaire in a couple of years, or in 5 years, multimillionaire, or in several years, multimillionaire. So it's doable, and it accumulates over time. And I think this is where it gets a little uncomfortable and tricky. Most people aren't willing to wait. They want that, magical lamp from Aladdin that's going to give you all the results immediately. It doesn't work that way, no matter what you do, unless you're a drug dealer, and you know how that ends too, right? I'll invest later when I have more money, when the kids grow up. when the debts are paid off, when the market improves. Later is the most elegant trap in the world. There's always a reason to wait, and there will always be one. So, I mean, this is just an example, but I'm going to give you one example of a property that I purchased in 2019. We just recently sold it. We bought it for $175,000. It cash flowed for the last 4 years. And we did the math. We made about $60,000 in just rental income. And we sold it for $400,000, which we made like $240,000. So it was beautiful to see that because of the appreciation. So we made a little bit more. But it's only been 6 years. Now, was that luck? Maybe, right? The market took a pretty good rise. But if I would have purchased 5 years from that, it would have been the same thing. So I guess you guys can see here where that's going, right? So debt is bad. It is, right? Credit cards and consumer debt that we use to vacation. So, but there's another type of debt that is good debt, like credit card for spending, loans for vacation and luxuries, car loans for depreciating assets. I mean, a car is a necessity, right? But that's a depreciating asset, and it takes money out of your pocket. Good debt, mortgages for appreciating properties, loans for income-producing assets, leverage to multiply capital. And this is where I've been able to learn from others how to leverage. And who was it that said that if you give me a lever big enough, I can even move the earth, right? And leverage is the best thing you can have, especially here in the US, where as your properties appreciate, you can borrow from them and continue to grow your net worth. And this over time will put money in your pocket. Phoenix is proof of this. You guys have seen it, how it's changed dramatically. And again, we were talking earlier about how there's more traffic, and with traffic, there's more money. And for that, there's opportunity. So I know you guys say traffic, me too, but I guess it's a necessary evil in order for us to continue growing. And now we're not just an economy where you have just real estate being the main driver of our economy. We have a lot of technology companies, which I think we're now going into a different revolution, which is a technological revolution. And this is just the beginning of it, and we're in the middle of it. And this is one of the other reasons I'm doing these events, is because if you don't see that, you're going to miss out big time. And there's a lot of opportunity for growth in the next few years. And if you're not paying attention, I'm doing some, and full disclosure, they're AI bots that I'm doing, or AI avatar that I have. But I can do the videos, like I get sidetracked very quickly. So we've been doing those videos, and I'm talking about all the businesses that are coming into town. And there's trillions of dollars being poured into this county itself. So you guys are in a beautiful position, especially those that are younger, to maximize your growth in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So again, this is not an overnight success, get rich quick scheme, yet there is a lot of room for growth. And you guys see there's a lot of open spaces still. So as that's still open, there's gonna be space for you guys to get in, and it might seem like it's kind of level, but before you know it, that hockey stick's gonna happen, and the price are gonna rise so much that you're gonna be like, man, I wish I should have, would have, could have. So again, for those of you that are younger, imagine investing in the compounding of 40 years, right? And any mistake that you make, that you said I purchased this at the wrong time, it's gonna be covered with time. You know, some of the properties that I purchased, like I said, I'm negative on right now. But over time, I think that they're gonna correct. They're already there with equity, so that's not a concern. And one property can become a full portfolio of 50 homes or more. I have one of my friends that he actually spoke at one of our seminars. He owns over 300 homes. So when you see that, you see how that's possible. Just imagine getting $500 positive cash flow on 300 homes, which he's getting way more than that. He's actually lending money. So it could be a pretty good income. The other thing is, for those that are younger and starting at 40 or 50 or 30, I mean, the compounding of it, because your growth is exponential. Your tenants paying your mortgage, and then it's growing up in value. But also you have deductions. If you're in a higher tax bracket, it'll allow you to keep more of your money. So instead of giving money to Uncle Sam, you're putting it into your investments. So it's the compound effect is what Einstein said is the eighth wonder of the world, right? So it's really, really good. So the 4 pillars of our real estate investment is appreciation. Again, if you buy, you were asking me earlier about, you want to ask the question now?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the question was for a investor, what is the sweet spot in square footage? And at the highest interest rate and the least amount of money down, would you get fair market value to cover your expenses?
Right now, you're probably going to be a little bit negative, maybe $200-300, right? Because of the rates, they're about close to 6%, some of them in the low 5s, depending on where you purchase. One of the things that we've been doing, and actually that's how we started this, because people didn't want to sell their home because they have a good rate. So instead of selling the home, renting it, with the extra cash flow, buy another house, and you're basically you're paying the same, but now you have 2 homes. And when it comes to appreciation, I mean, your tenant's paying your mortgage, helping you subsidize your mortgage, and it's paying the other mortgage. This is where the math works. So right now, it's tough to cash flow because of the rates and the prices too. They're not, and they're not going to go lower from what we've seen, and they have come up already. So
And equity flow.
yes. So in the future, will equity flow, and then the where was I going with this? I lost my train of thought, but I think the sweet spot is about 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, and maybe 350 to 400,000. What do you think, Wendy?
Which part?
She's not even in the market. She's playing pickleball every single day now. No, she just did a beautiful flip. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. But anyways, down the road, you will cash flow. If you have enough money to put down, you will definitely cash flow. And the leverage part is like you put 20% down or 10% down, because there's a bank that will lend you a 10% to buy an investment property. There will be a PMI, but it's pretty small. And when you say, well, I bought a house for $500,000 and I'm only cash flowing X, it's just your down payment. It's not the full amount that you put down, right? That's the other thing. And then the tax benefits. If you're paying taxes, I'd rather give that money to my negative cash flow asset than give it to the IRS. That's my theory, and that's how I see it. So does that answer your question? Okay. Again, the mindset is asking the right question. Can I do this? A lot of times we look for reasons not to act. The market, the rates, what could go wrong. There's a broken toilet, you know. I don't think we had a toilet broken yet in the last 6 years, right, Luz? So you'll hear a lot of people telling you and giving you advice, and they don't even own a rental. So when you're going to buy rentals, talk to people that have rentals, because other people will discourage you 100% from even owning a home. Oh my gosh, you're going to sell yourself for 30 years. Well, you can sell yourself for the rest of your life renting and not having anything to show for, right? So how can I do this? You start thinking about ways to do it, like being here and talking to the lenders or ourselves, and then look for ways to get those resources. And we can help you with the strategy. So you don't have to do this alone. So not investing is also a decision. So a lot of people, think, well, I don't want to make that decision right now. Well, you are making a decision not to purchase. Just think about if you had money in the bank and we had about 17% inflation in the last 5 years. If you had 100,000, now you have 83. And if you had a home, you're actually in a better position because of inflation. And the opportunity cost is real. Every year without investing, compound your growth, you lose forever. So a lot of you guys own homes, and those homes have been appreciating. And again, you owe less every single month, so it's with time that you're going to start building that wealth. And not investing is the riskiest bet. I'm going to go faster so that we can get to Wendy. And I'm going to show you guys, this is one of the best things that Raul last time we didn't use it, and I want to show you guys because it's mind-blowing and it's eye-opening to see where the rates been and where the prices have been. So if you go back to 1980, the average price home, and this is in the whole country, not just here in Phoenix. So this is for the whole country. Properties were about $60,000 on average. The rates were at 15%. They were high, so you had cheap homes. 1985, the average price home was $80,000, already $20,000 more. The rates were at 12%. Because of the rates drop, the prices climb. So this is where we base it off of history, not just by we think this is what's happening or what will happen. In 1990, the home prices went up to $100,000. The rates dropped. It was a steady rise, but it was kind of slow. In 1995, prices were 120, rates were at 8%, more buyers entered the market. 2000, home prices were 150, the rates were at 10%, we had an economy boom. 2005, 200,000, rates were 6%. What are they now, Sergio?
Like 675?
675. So we're about there, right? And there was a boom back then. And then in 2010, we had the market crash. So prices dropped to 180. The rates were in the fives, but then they even dropped lower to about 4%. It wasn't until 2019 that we got into the higher rates. So I want to show you this graph and show you the line. This is from 1980. These are home prices. Except in 2008 when we had the crash, they dropped. But as you can see, home prices never drop because people are waiting for the market to crash. Good luck. It's not going to happen. And again, if it crashes, we had a little crash in 2022 and we dropped a little bit, but then in January we came up. So every single year, prices rise. And every single, you can see how the trend for the home prices continues to go up, even though, like I said, this was the market crash. And here in Phoenix, we got like a 50%, even higher drop. It was pretty dramatic, but our economy was based a lot in construction back then. But even then, if you wait, if you're patient, and if you buy like that lady from Citigroup that could have purchased the stock at $1 instead of selling them all at $1, it's the same concept. So time cures it all. So, and Sergio talked kind of quite a bit of this when it comes to rates. Typically when the rates go down, the prices go up. So the best time to buy was yesterday, and the second best time is today. This is key, guys. We're also talking about the inventory, how it's higher. So right now we have 14,400 homes available for sale. In the last 30 days, actually as of this last week, yesterday, 6,034 homes were under contract. We sold 4,800 homes last month. These are the slowest months. January is the lowest month, and then February picks up a little bit, and then March is a little higher. So if you do the math, we have less than 3 months of inventory. What will happen if rates drop? That hose that we talked earlier about that is bent, it's going to be open, and it's game over. You guys are going to be like, I should have bought. The market is going to drastically change. You've seen it many times. How long have you been in the industry, Wendy? How many?
40.
40 years.
I started when I was 1.
I was wondering, were you even born back then? So this is why I have that sense of urgency for you guys, because people don't realize this. They have no clue. And most of the time they have no clue. And then when you wake up, the only way to tell if you're, because people are, I'm going to wait until it gets to the bottom. The only way to see the bottom is when you left it. When you look down and you say, oh, wow, there's a bottom. Or in order to see the drop is when you see the top. So I guess this is a good picture as to what's coming. So in essence, every 5 years, prices go up. Rates go up and down. So the real risk isn't buying. So it's waiting. The real risk isn't buying. It's waiting. It all starts with one decision, one property. You don't need to know everything to figure it out to begin. We're here for you. You don't need 10 properties in one day. You only need the right step or the first step with the right information and support. And the first property teaches more than 10 years of theory. We can talk about theory all the time. I jumped in. I mentioned this quite often. The person who opened up my eyes was my landscaper. I brought him a deal. I says, dude, look at this guy. The realtor is an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. I don't use that word a lot, but I want to use it from this case because I think it's relevant. So I showed it to him, and he lives in Buckeye, and we go to Buckeye. He looks at the property. I says, this guy's selling this house for $117, and it's worth $175. This was back in 2014, 15. And he's like, I like it. I'll buy it. So he takes the property. He closes. As soon as he closes, he's like, why didn't you buy it? I was fighting for my $5,000 commission versus $60,000 or $55,000 in equity. And then I woke up and I'm like, crap, what have I been doing? So after that, I started looking at everything. When I go into a listing appointment, is this a deal? Can I buy it? Or can I give it to one of my clients to grow their wealth and completely change our life? Like, I mean, it's been awesome. So I'm telling you because it works. But it took a decision, and it took somebody showing me that it was possible. And my landscaper, who's not even in the industry, showed me the way. Because a lot of times, even though we're in front of the opportunity, if you don't know that it's an opportunity, you're not going to take it. But once you see it, you're like, whoa, man, I've been under a rock. So what does this mean for you as a buyer, especially right now, from what I showed you with the market? There's more options for you to choose, as we were speaking earlier. You have greater negotiation power. You have less competition than before. But the best properties still sell fast. Have you guys seen multiple offers, Andres? Yes. Have you seen multiple offers, Carlos? Yes. Right? So there is multiple offers right now. If those properties are really nice in a beautiful location, they're selling quickly. And if you don't move fast, you're going to end up buying up in, what is it called, Taravelis? Sounds sexy, it's way out there. It's like 20 years from now. But again, you do you. This is not a market to wait in. It's a market to act and strategically. The perfect moment does not exist. We all wait for that, the stars to align and for the perfect weather. But the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, like I said earlier. And the second best time is now. So there's always going to be, like we said, the economy, the market, the war, this, that. It's not whether you can, it's whether you're going to start. And now you already have the information. You know the difference between income and wealth. You know waiting has a cost. You know the traditional system wasn't designed to make you free. The only question left is, will you keep following someone else's script or write your own? Warren Buffett, this is the power of compounding. So Warren Buffett accumulated 99% of his fortune after he was 52. This guy started investing literally when he was 12. Did you guys know that? And most of his accumulation was at the end, right? I mean, he's a multi-billionaire. But again, it's about being patient and have perseverance. And no matter what the market does, just hang on, right? Because it will change. Just like my 2 properties that I mentioned to you guys at the beginning, I wish I would have kept them. They would have been almost paid off. But I followed the crowd. I did what everybody else was doing, and I repeated the story. I said, why feed a dead horse? And I'm like, man, I shouldn't have listened to him. But anyways. So the best time to start was yesterday, and the second best time is now. Something clicked for you guys. You don't know how to start. We're here for you. This is not the end of the conversation. This is just the beginning. If this presentation resonated with you, if you feel for the first time that this is possible for you, that this is your moment to act, not tomorrow.